So I think there's a number of things. Probably first to begin with is my name. When you have a name that is different, you automatically are different. Doesn't matter if you are a different ethnicity, if you're a girl, if you're a boy, whatever. When your name is different from the very first time you go and meet other children, you're different. And then all the other things that are in your life that are different don't really seem that big. It's just, oh, your name's Suki? Okay, all right. Yeah, well, she's different. Her name's Suki. And so it's always sort of been a formula in my life. Like, oh, your name's Suki. That's different. And it has been that, one of those things when you're a kid. Oh, your name's Suki. That's different. And so throughout my career, I think I've always looked at myself as being different. I've always been an individual. I've always been an outlier. I always call myself an outlier of outliers. You go into a career field, you're the only female, you're the only black female, and then your name is different. And it's not, my name isn't something that traditionally people associate with looking like me. So I've always been different. And I've always been slightly weird. Not gonna lie, I'm slightly weird, just some of the things that I've liked. So I think that's allowed me to be different. I would say a person who's been really significant in my life professionally has been Jan Herring. And he was the first person I worked with outside of my academic career in my internship and also in my professional life in competitive intelligence. And Jan is one of these most quietly spoken men. He's a lot older. I mean, when I worked with him, he'd already retired from the CIA and he headed up Motorola's competitive intelligence division. He basically started it. He's good friends with the director from my academic program at Mercyhurst. And he was instrumental because I actually got to learn from somebody who had been in national security and understood that workings, and also had been in competitive intelligence. He's like the grandfather of competitive intelligence, one of the 3 founding members of our professional organization. So for me, working with him, first out of the gate was just phenomenal. He has been one of those people I can email and just say, I'm thinking about this, I'm not really sure, and he'll get back to me. I call him when I lived in China. I called him and I said, probably shouldn't call you from China. However, I'm struggling with something. And he was, okay. Just at any time. And throughout things that have happened in my career, I've just sent him a little updates. And he's just been sort of this voice of reason. He's been somebody I can just storyboard with. Okay, I'm thinking about doing this. I get feedback all the time. He's always a big champion for me. He's good for my ego, especially when you doubt yourself with what you're doing. And he's just been a great big support. And he is so understated. People would not realize if they were in a room with him how important and significant this man has been. And he's just the best. I always say, first of all, it always starts with people, but we can put that aside for a minute and we can just talk about the thing that really gets most people going in business, and it's about the money. And for boards, investors, for anybody who's running a company who's beholden to others in order to make that profitable, it comes down to the money. And it makes business sense to be diverse. Makes business sense to have that variety of people, of thought. If you don't have variety, you're just going to be catering to one segment. And at the end of the day, it's just not profitable because you can only grow so far. And when you look at the demographics of the world, it seems slightly impossible that you're only going to cater to, less than 10% of the world. Which, yeah, great, they might have a majority of the money, but long term, it's not sustainable. You're just going to have the same people that won't eventually need your product. So it makes sense. And the thing that people really need to do is, I believe they have to drill down, look at the networks that they've built. The biggest problem I see, especially in the investment community, is everybody says, oh, we want more female founders. We want more founders of color. And that's great, but you always see the same 5 people sitting at the table really talking to those female founders or those founders of color. And it's the same 5 white males. Sorry to generalize, but generally it is. It's usually the same 5 white males that are 40-something. And what does it matter if they change and they do the same thing year after year after year, and they bring in more female founders, if the same trek riders are the ones giving the money? Because they're not going to change. Their opinions are not going to be more diverse, because there's no diversity of thought at that table when they're really judging those female founders and they're really evaluating them. So I always think hiring and your pipeline is the biggest thing you can do. You have to diversify within your team, and that's your investment team, not your operations team. Because everybody looks at their website and they go, oh my gosh, they have women on the operations team, not on the investment team. And that's where the real money makers and the real deal makers are. So that's one of my biggest things, is looking at your internal structure. And recruitment, that'll change. If your internal structure changes, then externally what's projected is going to change what other people see. That's just all there is to it.